the answers to all of the questions that we have about our lives and about how we'd love to live them, live in the space of I don't know. I'm not saying that knowledge is a bad thing. Of course it's not. It's a good thing. Craving to know blinds us to something that's even more valuable, not knowing. Intuition is more important than knowledge. I've been thinking a lot recently about how much importance we place on knowledge and the need to know, or rather think we know. It even leads to the crazy expectations we have that we ought to know how to do something before we've even begun doing it. Now, I'm not saying that knowledge is a bad thing. Of course it's not. It's a good thing. But it's not the only thing. And all too often, our craving to know blinds us to something that's even more valuable, not knowing. Now, I know that sounds crazy in this scientific age, but even the greatest scientific mind of the scientific age, Albert Einstein, dethroned knowledge as the summit of human inquiry when he said, intuition is more important than knowledge. So, in this thought experiment, I explored not knowing to challenge myself and my own need to know. Because having done so many of these thought experiments, I'm coming to realize that no matter how fast you run on that knowledge treadmill, you will never reach the end. And the trouble with a treadmill is, it's always headed in the same direction. And when I jumped off that treadmill for this thought experiment and deliberately spent more time hanging out in the space of not knowing, I started to see what a heavy price we pay for our single-minded pursuit of knowledge. And the more time I spent in this space of not knowing, the more I discovered how open and free and liberating it is. Which made me realize just how heavy and constraining and claustrophobic it is to be always thinking, I need to know. It ends up boxing you into a very small corner. And that corner is usually the same corner you always get stuck in. Which is why, as part of the very first session I have with a new client, I'll always say at some point that I'm going to ask you something about what you said or what you seem to believe. And after a few minutes of thinking about it, and with a real sense of frustration, you're going to say, I don't know. To which I'll respond, fantastic. We're in exactly the right place. Because by definition, the answers to all of the questions that we have about our lives and about how we'd love to live them, live in the space of I don't know. But the trouble is, we don't like the space of I don't know. Not knowing worries us, let alone admitting that we don't know. So we run away from it as quickly as we can, back to the safety of the already known and the knowable. And when we do that, we are running away from the one thing that will truly give us the kind of lives we would love to live. The new opportunities and new possibilities that can only ever be found in the space of I don't know. And as a result, our lives get smaller rather than bigger, and more limiting rather than liberating. Because as Socrates famously said, "The more I learn, the less I realize I know." So, the more we obey this need to know, this need for evidence and evidence-based proof, then the more you restrict yourself and fence yourself off from the infinite field of possibilities that are on the other side of that factual fence, which, by the way, is itself just one field in many, many fields in the vast space of all that we don't know. Now, as I said, I'm not saying that data and facts and evidence are bad things. They're not, of course. What I'm saying is that if we treat knowing as if it were the boundaries of the map that we've got to keep us safe, well then we're just like the ancients who would never wander beyond the borders of the known world because there'd be monsters there. Now, as well as Einstein and Socrates, we can also take some inspiration from Zen Buddhism, which also encourages this liberating perspective with what it calls beginner's mind, or not knowing mind. What they're pointing toward is the insight that all knowledge is a limited and limiting expression of our true nature as conscious beings. But beginner's mind, or shoshin as they call it, is free, open, infinite. In fact, the more experience a Zen Buddhist has and the more expert they become, then the more time they dwell in beginner's mind. What these three perspectives are telling us is that the state of not knowing is a precious gift. It's open and free, full of curiosity. Fearless not knowing wants to explore what's out there, in the terrain, beyond the map. It's like a child in the wonderment where infinite possibilities allow anything to be everything, because it already is. So here's the thought experiment for you to try, and it's very simple. Whenever you hear yourself think or say, "I don't know," smile. Because in that moment, you're a child again. And you have before you the playing fields of infinite possibilities. And what you'll discover is that it is in beginner's mind that the life you would love to live begins.